Should employees be rehired? That is today's topic on this multi-unit Mastery Monday, where we share tips and information so that you can be successful in your business. This is a very interesting question about, should you rehire your team members that leave you? In this day and age of significant staffing challenges that we're experiencing, there are many franchisees and business owners that are making decisions that they probably wouldn't make in a different circumstance. The thing is, though, that sometimes those decisions that are different from what they normally would do may end up being an okay decisions, but sometimes they end up being not so okay decisions. And at the end of the day, it is better to just wait a little longer and have a great team member than to make rash decisions without a significant thought process behind it. When it comes to rehiring employees, this is a very personal topic for me. In my career, I was an employee of this amazing company that I love, and to this day, I still love. But after nearly 20 years with that organization, I decided to leave and explore the world and see what else was out there. I mean, I literally grew up within that organization, and everything that I learned about business and franchising and leading and managing, regions and large organizations, I learned by working, under that brand. But I had to make a decision as to whether I was going to be what we call a lifer or I was going to go out there and explore the world. And in the later years in the organization, I started to get exposure to other brands and other organizations and other things that were out there that I had never explored and seen, which is why I decided to leave the organization. And believe me, it was one of the hardest decisions I had to make in my life. And when I did call my boss, Don, if you're hearing, thank you for everything you did for me. But when I did call him finally, I literally was crying on the phone as I'm, rendering my resignation. And he was like, but if you're crying, you don't want to go. So why are you going? And I just had to explain to him that it was a decision that I felt was right for me at the time. And that, I just wanted to be able to go out there and explore. And then he reminded me, Aisha, you realize that if you leave, you can never come back. And I knew that. I had thought that, as I went through my decision, and I realized that I did not want to end my life at the end of the day thinking or regretting not having gone out there and exploring what else was out there. And so I had to weigh everything. And at the end, that was the decision for me. Now, did that make me a bad employee? No. Did that make me someone that should not be rehired? No. Especially after all that I learned and explored and experienced after leaving that organization, coming back, I would have brought so much value, so much more knowledge, so much more experience that I would have been even much more valuable for that organization. That never happened. I think that to this day, they may still have that no rehire policy. I'm not really sure. I looked it up before this session, but I couldn't find anything on the internet because obviously it's a corporation. And so I always work for not always, but most of my career, I work for that corporation, not for an independent franchisee organization, only for a little while. So anyway, so as you can see, this is something that, it's definitely something that affected me in my life. But yet again, I still made the decision to leave knowing that it was going to be a forever. Now, if I known that I could have come back, that probably would have made my decision a little easier, which, it brings me back to why do companies have a no rehire policy, right? Because for us to think about, should we or should we not, we need to understand why no rehire policies exist. And one of them is to prevent people from leaving, right? I really had to think through for a while. Like I would say a couple of years it took me to think through whether I was going to leave the organization or not. I mean, realizing that I left 2 months short of 20 years with that company. And so it took me a couple of years to decide. And more than anything is because of that no rehire policy. So did that work for them? Did that have them keep me longer? Absolutely. And so that's one of the reasons why, companies, organizations have the no rehire policy. And by the way, it's no rehire regardless of the reason why you left. Another thing is they want to prevent, the revolving door, people going and coming and going and coming, because then it takes time for employees to get back on board and get in line and, rejoin the team or the project, etc. And so they don't like that, which is why they had that no rehire policy. There are other reasons, like legal reasons. Sometimes it's a no rehire agreement when there is some sort of litigation, etc. So there's many reasons why organizations, for their benefit, decide to put the no rehire policy, which, it makes sense. Now, we have to, for us to decide whether we should rehire employees, we should also decide or think, why do employees leave? Right? And employees leave for many reasons. In my case, I just wanted to explore the world. I just wanted to see what else was out there that I hadn't seen or experienced or learned. Right? And so that was really the reason for me. Other employees leave because of better opportunities. Maybe they get better pay, or maybe a better possibility for growth. Other people leave, because they move. Sometimes people move, and then, the business or the job is no longer suitable for them. It's not anything to do with the quality of their work or the commitment to the organization. It's simply circumstances that, come, and, sometimes, people have children and then decide they're going to take a break for a while. I mean, there's many reasons why people leave. And so before we decide whether we're going to have a no rehire policy, we really need to think through, why would we want to have it, and why do people leave, so that then you can make the best decision for your organization. And so I would think that I don't agree with having a no rehire policy no matter what. That's just my personal opinion. But every business person needs to make the decision for themselves in their organization. Now, my recommendation, which is what I'm going to share with you in this video, is what, in my perspective, is the right way to have a no rehire policy. And when I mean a no rehire policy, I mean a policy in which you and your people are going to decide whether an employee that has left the organization should or should not be rehired. Okay? So first of all, you need to have this policy defined. And you, as a business owner, need to define what that rehire policy is. And because if you have that policy and you document it, then you can then transfer that information to your team so that they follow that policy, right? And so that's first of all what you need to do. Decide what is the right thing for you and for your organization, document it, so that then you can then pass that on to your employees, anybody that hires, so that they can follow that policy. And the second thing that you need to have is put a process in place to ensure that that policy is being followed. Because the last thing you want to do is to have that policy be executed or implemented in a very inconsistent way based on who has the information and who doesn't have the information. So having the information documented and having a clear policy is the first step. But the second step is you need to have a process in place in which you make sure that all of the employees are following it, right? And so here's the process that I recommend for you to have a rehire or a no rehire policy. First of all, you need to have an organized and complete system to search your employee database. And what I mean by that is there needs to be a place somewhere where you have all of your employees, new and old, information in one place, so that those people that are hiring have a place to go look at as part of the hiring process to review if, number one, has this person worked for you? And number two, if they have, are they eligible for rehire? Okay. Number two, that every time an employee leaves your organization or separates from your organization, whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily, that you document the reasons why they left in as much detail as you can, and have it documented in a way that it will go into that file so that you can access the information. If you only put that they left because of attendance, well, that doesn't really tell you much, because there's many reasons why attendance might be a problem or may not be a problem in the future. And so putting as much information in that especially for voluntary resignations, is going to be of great value for you so that you don't miss on an opportunity of rehiring a great employee in the future. Then at the end, in that same file, before you close the file and move on, make sure that you make a note in there, you or whoever is the hiring employee, to make a note of where at the time would be the stance of the hire or no rehire policy. And if there is a no rehire message, or even if there is a rehire message, why is there that message, and what could change if that situation changes, right? And so the fourth step, then, it would be include notes. I put as many notes as you possibly can, because policies change, people change. Let me give you an example. If somebody that is a new parent and they are not able to have the proper attendance because of having young children, I mean, in 10 years, these young children may no longer be so young, and that attendance issue because of the children might disappear. Another possible issue for attendance issues, if they're a college student, exams or homework or classes interrupt or get in the way of, work, then the performance of attendance will be different than when they graduated and they would like to join or rejoin the organization to have a career. Right? It's a whole different circumstance, and so it is very important that you follow that process. Number one, that you have and created and define what is your hire, no rehire process. And then you have a database where people can actually easily access that information, that you have as many notes as possible, so that whenever that employee wants to come back, your hiring manager or person can refer to those documents, and then based on that, make a decision whether this person is available or approved for hire or not. People leave for different reasons. And at the end of the day, if this is your franchise, this is your business, you need to decide what is right for your organization, for your culture, for your team. And the best way that you can do that is by considering all of the reasons why people leave, and all of the value of having this policy in place. And then you decide what is the policy that you want to put in place. And then follow up in creating the processes so that your employees can follow it the way they need to. And if you do that, then gives you the flexibility to then delegate those decisions to the employees that are doing the hiring, and you don't have to worry about that anymore. And the only last recommendation that I have for that is that you need to still be flexible. Like I said, time changes, situations change, generations change, the environment of business change. So you need to be able to be flexible and listen to your team members to see if there are cases that are unique and situations that maybe you did not consider in that policy, that you may need to then listen, take into consideration, and change your stance in some of those things. All right. Now, I just want to remind you that if you create this policy, you document it. First of all, you define it, you document it, and then you train the hiring managers of all the levels on how to follow this policy. This means that you are able to delegate that decision to them and delegate the operations of your business. And so that you, as a growing multi-unit franchisee, can now have the freedom to do other things, whether it is to focus on opening new units or go to Hawaii on vacation. Because the last thing I want you to do is go to Hawaii on vacation worrying about somebody hiring somebody that stole from you, or that had a sexual harassment issue on your organization, or who knows, right? But if you have this policy and this process to ensure that that doesn't happen, now you can delegate operations and go on vacation to Hawaii and have fun. Now, if you would like to know more about systems like this that would allow you to delegate operations to your team and be able to grow into a multi-unit organization, but still expand the freedom that you have as a business owner, I would like to invite you to join us in our next multi-unit franchise masterclass, where we teach just that. What are the systems that you need to put in place as a multi-unit franchisee, so that you can have that freedom? Now, we only do this masterclass once a quarter. So click on the link or go to multiunitmasterclass.com, find out when the next class is, and join us. It's a free session that we do once a quarter from the academy so that you can have the information that you need to be successful. So having said that, thank you for being with me today. If you are on a live broadcast from any of our platforms, please give us a thumbs up and have any couple of notes. Let me know, when would you hire or not rehire? When would you not rehire an employee? Or what type of circumstance is there that you would rehire somebody? Put in the notes. I would love to see and read your opinions. And if you are joining us from our YouTube, or if you're not on our YouTube, join us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel so that you can see videos like this. We have lots of them already. Actually, we reached over 80 as of the recording of this one. And trust me, you will want to be able to have access to that information so that you can implement it in your business and have success. Thank you, and we'll see you next week in our next Multi-Unit Mastery Monday, where we share tips and information to help you be successful. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.